Welcome to the live. I'm gonna wait for some people to come into the room. Okay, I can do this. That's right. Talking about it's pretty big. Welcome to the live. Can you hear me? Because sometimes you can just say one or yes, anybody that has entered. Because I won't start until I know y'all can hear me. But I think I figured out the microphone situation, but I just want to make sure so I know what to do moving forward. Oh, thank you. Thank you for responding. Okay, so I'm getting more people in the room, and today's topic is knowing the difference between you being valuable versus you being useful. And let me ask you a question. Do you know what your value is? You can say yes or no. Do you know what your value is? Because I realize many people don't know what their value is. And if you would like to share in the chat, like let us know. Like one person told me, because I did this live on Instagram Live. And one person told me their value is that they're human. I was like, that is not a value at all. Like, everybody's a human. Like, you being here is not valuable. Especially when you don't know what makes you valuable. But yeah, do you know what makes you valuable? Do you know your value? Yes or no? And you can say no. Or if you say yes, what's your value? What do you believe is your value? And we're going to go into it today because most people confuse value with being useful. Now, I will say that you want to know your value because when you get around the right people that are also in a line to that value, you are useful to them. So it's not about, because I don't know if I explained that in the last conversation. It's not that you're not supposed to be useful, but I think where people get it backwards, they try to be useful and then figure out what their value is. And you do not want to do that because that's why so many people are insecure today because they're so focused on being useful. And the difference between being useful and value is useful is based on what you do. Being valuable is based on who you are. And usually you can tell a person that focuses on being more useful than valuable. It's because they focus more on skills. They focus on skills, they focus on tools, they focus on what other people are wanting. They're focusing on action. That's being useful. But in today's time, with AI and technology, you being useful is not enough. Because what people have been able to do hundreds of years, now AI can do it in a matter of seconds. So this is why you see people being scared and feeling vulnerable with technology, because most people don't know what makes them valuable. So of course, technology will be a threat to them. And people are losing their jobs, and jobs that we used to have that people were useful at. Now technology is replacing them. Now, I don't think that everybody is going to be aware of what makes them valuable, but if you're in this live today, now you are aware and you can start thinking about what is my value. And I have some notes on my phone so that you can be more aware of what your value is, because this is something that, now before I go on, does anybody have any questions or comments? You could add it in the chat. This is a conversation that many people don't know that they need to have with themselves. Okay, Ban says you speaking on employment, but in human interaction, value is different. Well, thank you for that. I'm talking but it's still the same thing, because when we are choosing, and thank you for saying that, because I want to be clear. So let's go to human interaction. Human interaction still requires you to know what your value is in order for you to attract the right people that are in alignment to it. But what most people do with human interactions, they want to be useful, so they base it on what they think the other person wants. So this is why so many people are in relationships with the wrong people. Because when you ask a man what he wants out of a woman, and even what a woman wants out of a man, is usually things that what they can do for them. Like a man wants a woman to cook, clean, what's the 3 C's? Cook, clean, cock. So he's basing her on the usefulness to him, but not the value in who she is. And the same thing goes for women. So then when we get into these relationships with each other, and when we're past the stage of just cook, clean, and cock, and when it's past the stage that this man can pay the bills and lay the pipe, now you're looking at each other's character. And you didn't choose that based on the value of the person. Because we don't choose based on alignment, we choose based on survival. So this is where it came from, how useful you are. But again, like I said, being useful isn't wrong. Because what makes you valuable in who you are, the right people will see that is useful for them. This is where you want to start when you are dealing with human interactions. First, know thyself. But what happens is people go looking for themselves in others. And people, as human species, we are very self-centered and very entitled. So you looking to find yourself in others and get answers from others, they're always going to base it on who they are and how it benefits them. But I tell anyone, before you get into a relationship, know what your value is. Know what your standard is. Before you talk about what you're going to do for a person, know who you are. Well, no, we're not talking about that. We're done talking about AI. We're talking about human interactions, because AI was the conversation with employment, but you expanded the conversation. And now we are going to human interactions, but don't say AI is not going to replace that, because I don't know if you heard the headlines. People are starting to get into relationships with chatbots. Don't believe me? Do your research. People, instead of dealing with human interaction, people are starting to get into relationships with AI chatbots. Don't take my word for it. Research. I watched a whole documentary about this transgender man being in a 2-year relationship with an AI chatbot. Okay. Okay. So it's happening. But what I'm saying to you right now, I'm not talking, I'm not adding AI to, I'm saying that we need to be aware of of our value, which is your character and what that looks like. Yeah. People replacing social media with relationships. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But you got to ask yourself why. There's a root. There's a root to it. People are tired. People don't know how to relate to one another. But it starts with self. People don't take the time to know who they are. And so when they get into these direct relationships with others, they don't know how to respond. They don't know how to communicate. They don't know how to handle their emotions. But a person that does know how to do that, they are of value. Because when you are a person that leads with value, you are unattainable. But when you are a person that leads with just being useful, you are attainable. So let's equate it to things. We're gonna go on different layers. Think about when you were a kid. I don't know how old y'all are. Think about when you were a kid. Was there a room in your house that your mama said you couldn't go into? Was there a special room that she said you can't go into that room? You're not allowed to go in that room. Where's my notes? Where you at, Bam? 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 When you was growing up, did your mother or parents have a room that you could not go into? Yeah. No, you not here listening. You the only one commenting. You're the one engaging. So I'm like, okay, let me ask you a question. Since you're engaging, okay. So I don't know about y'all, but when I was growing up, we had the living room. And my mother said, I can't go in that room because that room has nice things in there. That room has the valuable things in there. So you can't go in there anytime you want. So when you are leading with value, you are now becoming a person that's unattainable. You are a nice thing. It's a mindset. But when you are leading with being useful and being open and being available to everyone, you ain't really held with a high regard as a nice thing. You a tool. Okay. So that's just like with Louis Vuitton and Walmart. Two different, they both stores, but they have what? Two different values. So you got to ask yourself, based on who you think you are you a nice thing or are you easily accessible? How do people treat you? How do they carry you? How do you think of yourself? Because this is what you lead with going out into the world. This is what you attract. And I'm going to share with you the difference of when you're just being useful. You want to be used, or you want to be seen with value. Because I don't care what color you are or how much money you got, I don't care. Everyone has value to give, but everybody is not going to become aware of that. Okay? Everybody's not going to become aware of what their value is. So I'm going to tell y'all a story about how this happened for me. because before I got married and having a child, I and I can't even say that I knew what my value is. I definitely did not. And I remember as a single woman, I was independent, had my own money, had a good career, had my own place, had my own car, like living my life. Like I was capable, right? Because it was just me. And I still wasn't aware of my value, or I definitely know I was in the mindset of being useful, but I wasn't aware of that. So when I end up getting into the current relationship I'm in now, and then becoming a mother, this relationship had me being a full-time mom and a full-time wife, not working, just at home, taking care of my child, taking care of my home, and whatnot. At one point, I did have a business. Like, I was doing astrology readings and coaching, had a Patreon community. I was doing all the things. But at some point, I knew I needed to take a step back because I needed to really transition into motherhood. So over the years, I found myself starting to be depressed and questioning my own value, because it's like, I'm just a mother, I'm just a wife, I'm not doing anything. Like, yeah, I'm contributing to my family, but this isn't enough. I kept saying, this isn't, like, what am I here for? Like, what is, because I had the mindset of being useful by what I do. I need to be doing more. I need to prove myself. And I'm sitting here coming to my husband like, what's my value? And of course, him being a man, my value is going to be based on what satisfies him, what meets his needs, but not necessarily helping me identify with who I am. It's not really his job. It's no one's job really. But I'm just feeling like I've lost my purpose, or I don't know my purpose. And I was realizing that being a mother and a wife just wasn't enough. And I was feeling guilty about that. Like, because most women, we try to attain to this, to be a stay-at-home mom, getting a provider husband, and being taken care of, and all the things. That's what most women, they call it soft life. But someone like me, I was starting to deteriorate, because I'm like, is this what this is it? This is what this, like, what? And so then that's when I started questioning, what is my value? I know I'm more than this. And then till recently, that's when I started becoming more aware of, your value isn't what you do, your value isn't who you are. So despite how your life transitions and how your life changes, your value within who you are doesn't change. Now, the people around you might change because they may not value who you are. But that doesn't mean that you have to adjust yourself just because they don't see your value, because that value is for you to know. And that's what I didn't realize. I thought it was like, if I could do this or that, make money, do all this, then, but no. Because it doesn't matter if I go out and get a job or start a business. I didn't connect to what makes me valuable, despite the changes that will go on in my life. Yeah, I did. You know who, I thought you was just listening, Bam. Yeah, my grandmother, my mother, the one that raised me, she was a stay-at-home wife. Yeah. Yeah, she was a stay-at-home mom. And to this day, she lived with regret, because she had dreams and aspirations of what she wanted to do, but she didn't have the courage to do them. And maybe for some women, just being a mom and being a wife is enough. They love it. They pick the right partner and it just flows. But for some of us women, we know that our life doesn't have to evolve around our family. And I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that till later. But then it was deeper because it had nothing to do with them. It was an internal thing that was going on with me. So some of the things, let me see. So the reason why you want to know what makes you valuable, and remember, what makes you valuable isn't about what you do, it's about who you are, because this is what helps you connect to your authentic self. You cannot become your authentic self if you have not tapped into what makes you valuable, into your value. And you remember when exactly, Ben, like, of course, when the children, and that's why you see people when their children grow up, then it's just the husband and wife, then they realize that they ain't really no substance in this relationship, and they end up divorcing, because they no longer see any value to the relationship, because what made them stick together was that they were being parents. Remember, they were parenting. And so the children were there to keep them from really dealing with each other and seeing each other. It happens all the time. So when it comes to your authentic self, you must know what makes you valuable, or what your value is. And I know what I was saying. So you remember when, I don't know if y'all know who Kevin Samuels is, but Kevin Samuels was the dude going around telling women that wanted high valued men. Like, he was like, well, what do you bring to the table? And if you noticed, do any of y'all remember Kevin Samuels before I go into the story? Because you may not even know who I'm talking about. You can press 1 if you know who Kevin Samuels is. Okay. So if you noticed the question that he asked the women that wanted these high valued men, because people thought what made these men high value was because they made 6 figures. But now I know what being of value is. I know it was beyond the money, because who them men had to be in order to get to that status, that's character. Because there's plenty of people out here working hard and don't got no money. Okay. So when he asked the women, like, what makes you think you should have a high value man? What are you bringing to the table? Women did not like that question because it made them face themselves. And when I was watching that, I definitely was biased. I was just like, oh, how dare he ask a woman that? Just her being a woman is enough, right? But women will say, oh, what they bring to the table is that they be good wife, they can cook and clean, and they good in bed, they can have babies. And he was like, that's it? And women were like, that's not what makes you valuable. He said, I can hire a cook. He said, I can hire a maid. I can go pay for sex. He said, what you talking about? And that's the thing I think that keeps women stuck and knowing their true value is that they always take it to their pussy. Excuse the language if there's children listening, but that is one of the things that's keeping women stuck and knowing their true value is that they think it's in their pants. Do you not know? I'm sure, girl, you good in bed, and you got that one trick. But there's the next girl over there, younger, with a bigger butt and a tighter butt, that can do something else. So it's just like, you don't want to base your value on your body part. And that women say, well, their values that they have children. All women can have children. Not all women. Majority of women, that's what we're designed to do. Some women can't because of unforeseen circumstance, but we're designed to give babies. So that's not value. That's our biological setup. But what he was saying without saying, because he wasn't really direct about it, is that these women didn't realize that their value was in their character. The value was in their aura. Their value was in their presence. But if you got a stank aura, you ain't no value to anyone. If you got a messed up character, you ain't of value to anyone. So what people do, they do busy work. They're doing busy work. They're trying to do this and do that to make themselves get money. And that's why you're seeing all these women today getting their butts puffed up, getting their boobs. They always been getting the boobs. But women are like doing all these things to their body because they feel like that's what makes them valuable. Women have been led to believe that their value is in their beauty and their booty. But the way time and life is set up, everything that was up must come down. And this is why so many women are chasing after something that never really was that valuable in the first place. It's your character. Because I don't know about you, if you ever met someone that had a beautiful, like their a character, essence about them, and it wasn't that they was even that attractive. It was just their whole presence that you just like being around. That is worth its weight in gold. And with men, I don't really like talking about men, like unless they directly ask me a question. But I'm more so when I have this conversation, I'm talking to women. Because women do hold more power than they know, but because they're not connected to their value, they're putting their power in the wrong place. And then because they're looking at the male gaze, they're looking at what the man like. But then we say men are very simple. They are. Like we like to, yes, men are driven by sex, but that's not but that's just their biological setup. But a woman that knows her value, she can have men bow down to her knees, her feet, if she wanted to. Yes, exactly, Bam. But even for providing men, money is not everything. Yeah, and I don't think Kevin Samuels really expand. Maybe he did. I don't know. I just know when I start listening to him, he was getting the women together. But yeah, a high value man isn't just about money. A high value man has emotional capacity and intelligence. A high value man knows how to control his aggression. A high value man is disciplined. It's not just about money, but money is a tool. So any man that is leading with his ping and his coin, it's because he's coming from the space of being useful too. So whatever you can say about a woman, you got to say about a man. And this is why relationships feel really transactional. But you can't help not things being transactional, but based on what? Because one of the so let me tell you some keywords for being useful, where you just want to be useful, want to be used. is tools, skills, support, always trying to support somebody, labor, and transactional. That's being you focusing on how you can be used, okay? When you're basing it on that for yourself. Now, if you are basing it on your value, then you're focusing on your character, you're focusing on your standards, you're focusing on your perspective, your energy, your relational ability, and your perception. Perceptual, relational. Now, again, with the right people, all of those things can be useful. You know what I'm saying? Like if you have certain standards, that's useful to people that are looking for those certain standards. And if you are a person that have high emotional intelligence and emotional discipline, that is very useful because nobody don't want no sporadic, reactive, crazy person that don't know how to handle life and just always just thinking they should go off because they feel something. So to the right person, that is useful. For me, at the stage of life where I am, that is very useful to me. I don't got time for no emotional maturity and the lack of having emotional responsibility and accountability. I don't got time for that. Now, when I was in my 20s and 30s, yeah, I didn't mind that because I still hadn't built that standard within myself. So, what is starting to be useful to me is based on the value within myself, the things that I've worked on within myself, the standards that I have. You know, that's where I'm headed. But the main thing that I'm continuing to work on, because this isn't something like I'm master and I'm a arrived girl. No, I got this far where I can now sit and have a conversation with you and guide y'all in the distinction. But every day I am met with realizing my value and seeing the parts of my life where I'm still just trying to be useful. And let me see, so I got more notes. And so the question you can ask yourself is, am I adding value or proving usefulness? So the way that you know that you're trying to be useful is that you're trying to prove and explain your self-worth. You're trying to show how helpful you are instead of just sometimes sitting back being quiet and letting people figure out it's the most helpful thing you can do. But for a person that's useful and want to be used, oh, they always feel like they should be the one helping everybody and trying to save everybody and living through survival mode at all times. Because remember, it's based on what you do. You have put your value based on what you do. You put your value on how you can be useful to others. And that will always keep you in an inadequate place because people are fickle. People change their minds. Half the time, people don't know what they want. So when you connect to what makes you valuable, you have now standards. You are now the standard. And you know what you will and will not tolerate. But when you are being useful, you will bend and compromise and go against your own standards just to get along and just to have harmony. Because you don't want to deal with conflict or confrontation. So, some of the things that you can think about when you are identifying your value it's about what you're not going to do. That's how you can start aligning to your value. I don't know your value, you know, only you know that. And I'm sure there's ways of people can like support you in that. But some things that you can do for yourself to start becoming aware of your value is letting people meet you at your level instead of bringing them up. So, what keeps people from knowing their value is that they want to be understood, they want to be liked. And remember, a person of value is a nice thing, and everybody don't get access to it. Everybody ain't hell ain't even attracted to it because they can't afford it. And I ain't talking about money. They can't afford to be in a person's life like that has standards and move with character. People will have to meet you where you are. And then saying less sometimes, even when you can explain everything. So for me, this is the one for me that I've been working on. Saying less. Stop speaking. Less is more. It doesn't matter if you can explain it. It doesn't matter if you understand it. Let them figure it out or let them not figure it out. Because our need of approval comes from wanting to be useful. People pleasing comes from you wanting to be useful. All of these things that people say that they have an issue with, it all stems from them trying to be useful and not connecting to their value inside, to know who they are. And not translating your truth into something more comfortable for others. So that phrase, I said what I said. That will be your motto. Like I don't have if you don't understand it, that is not my job to get you to understand. It is not my fault that your perception and your mind is not at the capacity to understand what I'm saying. That's a personal problem. But what we trying to do? Trying to get people to understand, trying to water ourselves down, trying to dilute what we're saying so people can understand, so they won't get offended. No. Just because they don't understand don't mean that what you said wasn't crystal clear and valid. They're mining at the capacity to be where you're at, and that is okay. And letting your presence create impact without over efforting. It's about your presence. It's about your energy. Less is more. So value, it comes from your way of seeing, your standards, your self-respect, your emotional capacity, your discernment, and your presence. Those are the things that you want to start working on to align to your own value. Because this is why you can see two people doing the exact same thing, but the energy that one person puts behind it makes all the difference. Who they are makes all the difference with how people perceive them versus the other person. Hey, Libby. Oh, you was in a work meeting? Okay. Yeah, I'm about to go because it's lunchtime. So does anybody have any questions or comments? So to align to your values, stop trying to be attainable to everyone. Stop trying to be attainable. And for men and women, stop using what's in your pants as a means of what makes you valuable, because it doesn't. That's why nature does what it do. That's why women go through menopause at some point. That's why men lose testosterone, because your sex drive and your baby capabilities is no longer of value. It's not your value, no more useful. So now what you go do? Nature is like, yeah, I don't need you no more for that. It's just like, I don't need you no more for that. Figure out who you are as a person, not as a baby making machine. And for men, not as a money slot. Figure out who you are. The reason why relationships don't work is because people don't take the time to know who they are. And they get into these relationships and people mirror them back to them. And trust me, let me tell y'all something. That's a lesson, a hard lesson that I had to learn. And still learning. Still learning. That the people in my life, and definitely indeed, is a mirror to my lack of knowing my value. That's why there's discord between men and women, because they don't know their value. They basing on they basing it on biology. That ain't your value, that's your design. But it's the software that makes that design valuable. Because when you think of an Apple computer versus a Dell, they both computers. But it's the software that makes one more valuable than the other. Because the hardware is pretty much the same. The hardware is just like, yeah, okay. But it's the software that makes these things valuable, or appear to be give it the value that we think that it has. You know what I'm saying? So and bringing it back to technology, you're gonna start seeing this a lot more, and I want to bring it back to technology because we, in the point of human history right now, we are in a transition. The transition that we are in is the transition they had back in the day when they were going into the industrial age. Okay, we're in a transition like that. The informational, technological, whatever you want to call it. People call it Aquarius. What's it called? The age of Aquarius. I don't care what you call it. But we are in a transition. And what we used to do 100 years ago, which is being useful, knowing how to get the skills, be a workhorse, do that. That ain't gonna fly in the era that we're going to. But you are more valuable than any computer, any AI, anything that they are producing. And that's how you're going to continue to elevate, and no matter what era you are in, because you know who you are. But when you don't know who you are and you don't know what your value is, yeah, it can leave you feeling very inadequate and very insecure. And when you feel that way, when you feel inadequate and when you feel insecure, that is a signal that you're not aligned to your own value system. That's all. So it's very valuable to understand emotions. They're just signals here to tell you something about where you are. Bam said, okay, good live. Hope it reaches the right person. Indeed. Indeed. Thank you, Bam, for participating and engaging in the conversation. Okay. Well, I said I was going to be on here for 30 minutes and it's 45 minutes. So if you don't have any questions or any insights, and if there's anything that you learned today that you didn't know, you can also share in the chat as well. I said all of my notes today that I wanted to. Okay, so it looks like we are complete with the live, and I will connect with you soon.